The next issue, we're going to try to get through some of these issues for you that will generally affect you. And we're going to bounce around a little bit to try to provide some cheap entertainment. Cheap is only as much as you're worth, and free is free. But the issue here is there are two major regulations that will affect everyone in the state of California, and we are here to talk about them. Both of them go into effect January 1, and the first regulation deals with assistance animals. They're referred to assistive animals. They're referred to emotional support animals. Those regulations you have been used to based on service animals and et cetera. But do not confuse service animals with emotional, we'll call them emotional support for the purposes of this discussion. Don't confuse them because the standards, the remedies are remarkably different. In terms of this, come January 1, the law for the state of California protecting tenants who have emotional support animals will be much stronger to benefit those who are in need of an emotional support animal versus federal law. And what we have decided to do, not to bore you to tears, we'll provide Mac a legal Q&A that will walk you through the types of things that you can and can't do if you have someone. First of all, we'll just highlight a few issues. First of all, what we said is about service animals are trained, they're essential, they'll be with the owner at all times. They'll go to the grocery store. They'll accompany them just everywhere else. If they're hearing impaired, they're blind, whatever, that is essential all the time. Emotional support, on the other hand, may not be with them at all times. And they could remain in the rental property. The person, the household, your renter, can go out shopping, come back, animal's fine, just perfect, everything is good. Then that's one. Emotional support animals don't have to be trained. You can't ask for anything associated with training, about training, because there is no requirement. There is no standard. The emotional support animals can be, as long as they meet the city or county code. If the city says 4 dogs maximum per unit, that's 4 dogs, not 3, 3.5. The reason why we bring this up is because you're not going to be able to limit them regardless if you have an efficiency unit or a 3-bedroom unit. It's 4 dogs. And the city codes don't say for 1-bedroom units, it's going to be 1 animal, right? It just says 4 dogs. That could be an issue. So you can't ask for the breed, the weight. You can ask for a valid vaccination, rabies vaccination, registration with the city and county. You can ask for identification, at least for if they have a vet, the name of the vet, their phone number, so you can contact the vet just in case of an emergency. You can also, and you should, revise your contracts. And how? Right now, you may have a no pet policy, but you can't ban animals. You can ban pets, not animals. And tenants who are really smart change. If you have a no pet policy and you say, we caught you with a pet, well, that is not, Fifi is not a pet. She is my emotional support animal. She gives you and you must be prepared to act immediately to revise the contracts with that tenant and all tenants in an equitable fashion. So when you can ask about the dog's name, the vet, not his or her weight, you can ask about that. What can you ask of the tenant or the applicant? You can't ask the nature of the disability. The surprising thing, and this is very different than federal law, you can't even ask, excuse me, to say, I want a qualified medical provider to provide an opinion letter that you need Fifi. It can be anybody. It can be that person's best friend. Oh, thank you. And that's really an important standard to know. The letter is to be delivered to you, signed, dated, and all they have to do is say, in this case, Ron Kingston has Fifi, emotional support, assistive animal, assistance animal, essential for him, signed, blah. So we have developed some standardized language that might help you and scan that. That's going to be in this Q&A that we were talking about, so you know what to look for and what you can't ask for. It's very, very important. Yes, sir.
Ron, the last time we had an update on the subject, the issue of liability insurance and insurance companies banning certain breeds and possibly canceling your insurance, which would effectively put you out of business. At that time, you indicated that that was being discussed with insurance companies. Do you have a follow-up on that?
I do. First of all, thank you for actually listening to me. That's first and foremost. Now we can go and leave the room. But the question is, what happens if an insurance carrier, name it, that you have, precludes Rottweilers, Pit Bull Terriers, German Shepherds? They have basically identified 4 breeds that engage in let's call it unwanted contact. I think I mentioned to you when we talked about this, the number one claim of insurance companies are dog bites. Number one, not even close to anything else. So the law is changing in that regard. Insurers can't preclude the type of dog because there are multiple issues with Pit Bull Terriers. Are they purebred? Are they not? Do they have Pit Bull characteristics? What are they not? And so they told insurers, you've got to accept them. But they didn't tell insurers you can't change the annual premium. So they adjust the premium for everybody here, for the ones that are really special. So that's changed for the insurers. If they come back to you and your insurance agent says, the dog, I'm sorry, we can't qualify the dog, well, they're not going to be told the breed of the dog. You're not an expert, I hope, in identifying the perfect breed meeting certain standards. And that's point 2. Point 3 is the reason why you're not telling the insurer is because you can't ask for the breed. And so when the applicant or the tenant comes to you and says, I need an emotional support animal, you can ask about the vaccinations and the name, the veterinarians, as we said, but you can't ask and they don't tell. Sorry, it's almost Clinton-esque style statements, but the issue still remains. So there has been some improvement to protect you, okay? But understand that there are claims. Now, how do you want to change your forms? How do you want to change your response? Your response should always be standard. Someone makes a claim of a bite or a threat by an animal, you don't wait until you get back from a European vacation, all expense paid trip. You need to be planned and take action right now. Just like you do if there is water leak or some other serious issue, this is something you would tend to, and they say document, document, document. And this is extremely important on this situation too. The date and time you were called, the manner, keep the emails, however you were contacted, all right? So on the insurance issue, I hope that's provided you some pretty good clarity in that regard. So animals, you know, what type of animals are permitted? That's whatever the city permits to have in occupancy. There have been disputes about chickens and peacocks and this type of thing. There are separate laws. If you read about this, as long as we're at LAX, you read about people wanting to bring certain animals or reptiles on a plane. Someone recently told me bringing a Saint Bernard on a plane. I thought that was pretty remarkable, right, Ruth?
They didn't let them do it.
Yeah, good. But the laws in terms of airline travel, restaurants, grocery stores, stores in general are very different than your laws. So when you read about this in the newspaper, hear about it, watching the news one night or whatever it is, isolate that from your particular set of laws and hopefully read our paper if it applies to you. That might be particularly instructional.